I'm Darren Ambrose. I'm alongside Rory Jennings, and now we're all pumped for it after that. Let's talk all things England, Rory, in particular the midfield options. That's really got me ready. I know you said earlier, and I was a little bit not that excited. That's got me going. That little come on England there at the end from Adrian Durham. Absolutely brilliant. Right, midfield. Look, he's been bold, Gareth. He's picked Adam Wharton. He's picked Kobbie Mainoo. He's shown faith in those young players. Do you think one of them is at least going to start in the first game, or they're just there for backup?
No, I think that they will certainly feature. I think what has to happen in the first game, though, I believe that Kobbie Mainoo is still the answer. Like, obviously, nobody played well against Iceland. It was a disastrous game. I think it's the first time England haven't won their final game going into a tournament for decades, since the 60s. And look, on some level, it is slightly discombobulating. It is slightly problematic. It doesn't inspire. England being booed off at Wembley as we head into a tournament isn't what we want.
Yep.
But equally, I remember like Peter Crouch doing a robot against Jamaica as we headed off to a tournament, and then we limped to a victory against Paraguay.
Yep.
So it doesn't always... I think we put 6 past Jamaica. Remember Crouchy doing the thing at Old Trafford and all that? Yeah. We battered Jamaica, went to the tournament, and then got very lucky against Paraguay. So it doesn't necessarily mean because you've done well in a group, in a friendly prior to the tournament, that you're going to do well in the tournament in the tournament itself. But look, there were some mistakes made, and I think that we really do need to work out what happens, because this is the troubling sentence, I think. England, off the back of the game against Iceland, look further from the answer than closer to it. Generally, when your team plays, particularly friendlies, what you're doing in those situations is you're working out the answer, aren't you?
Yep.
What happened is, in that friendly, it posed more questions than answers.
Yeah.
It gave us more things to talk about in a negative way than it did in a positive way. We are no closer to the perfect formula. If anything, we're further away from it, because I think a lot of people now, they don't think Kobbie Mainoo is the answer. They were wrongly blaming Kobbie Mainoo for the goal, if we're totally honest. Look, I don't want to apportion blame. It's certainly not the time to be doing that. But if we're honest, that was Declan Rice's fault. Look, John Stones didn't do very well. No. Aaron Ramsdale being bashed up at his near post is ridiculous. Yep. But it was Declan Rice being over-adventurous is what caused us the problems. Yeah,
I thought exactly the same thing. And I was speaking before the show, before we started, about John Stones, along with Kyle Walker, our most experienced defender, who hasn't played much football, who allowed the Icelandic forward to just come inside onto his good foot, didn't really shut him down at all. And he hit a weak shot, really, into the near post past Aaron Ramsdale, which sometimes for a manager, leaving a game or coming away from a game with questions is a good thing. Not into a final game before the tournament. I felt we looked unbalanced. I felt with the talent, and I've spoken about this, with the talent at left backs that we do have in the country, with obviously Luke Shaw being injured, but Tyrick Mitchell, with Lewis Hall from Newcastle, was still young, inexperienced. Doughty from Luton, I know they went down, but he was a real shining star there. Rico Henry at Brentford, I think he's injured as well, but none of them, in particular Tyrick Mitchell, was given an opportunity in this. And to have the abundance of talent that we've got in the midfield, in the forward areas, and to be playing essentially a left back, a right back at left back,
and not a very good right back either.
And well, I was on the sports bar during the week, and we got a Newcastle supporter who says he loves Kieran Trippier, what he's done for the club since his arrival. He said, however, Lewis Hall and Livramento is going to be their first choice fullbacks next season. So you're essentially playing a right back out of position at left back, and he's coming to the end of his kind of career. But let me just ask you then, and Kobbie Mainoo, I think, is an outstanding talent, and this doesn't take away from his game and what I feel rightly he is getting hyped up to the max. Why is Adam Wharton not being hyped up as much? There was question marks as to whether he would actually go, yet question marks as to whether Mainoo would be in the starting team. So what is the difference? I see two very similar, young, exciting players, one hyped to the max, one not. Is it
it's Man United and winning the FA Cup? Yeah, but Kobbie Mainoo does deserve the additional... 100%. But he deserves the additional praise over Wharton. Look, I like Wharton. I think Wharton can feature, but I don't think I'm not making a case for Wharton to start yet. I think that there are other options to be explored before Wharton is the answer. I think Wharton will feature, and his debut against Bosnia-Herzegovina was unreal. Yeah, like he's a remarkable footballer who's going to play for England at the highest level for the next decade, no doubt. But is he the answer today? I'm not sure, because I still think it's Maino, and if it's not Maino, I feel like we talk about what Trent Alexander-Arnold can't do a lot, and there's a lot he can't do.
Yeah.
But my God, there's so much he can do.
Yep.
There's so much he can do that nobody else can do. And if you think about Kobbie Mainoo, the way that people are asking him to play is in his natural position. His natural position is actually the same position as Declan Rice. I think he is the same player as Rice. They both like to drive with the ball. They both like to carry the ball. Neither really unlock defences with like eye through the needle pass. They're not Cesc Fabregas, neither of them. No. They like to drive. Both like to do the same thing. What I think Kobbie Mainoo needs, and if you look at the FA Cup final, use that as a template, played really well in the FA Cup final when Sofian Amrabat sat in the 6 and Mainoo was the 8.
Yeah.
So if Declan Rice wants to sit, maybe Mainoo's the answer. The other alternative here is Trent Alexander-Arnold. And when you think about what he isn't good at, which seems to always be focused on, the opposition that we're playing in this tournament aren't going to give him those problems.
No.
Like, everybody's talking in our group, right? This is a weak group. We're very lucky with our group.
Yeah,
England should be hitting 9 points in this group.
Yep.
Seven would be uninspiring. Less than 7 is a disgrace.
Yep.
Play Trent Alexander-Arnold. If you believe, I still think Kobbie Mainoo, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham is the answer.
Yeah.
I don't think Phil Foden did enough to justify that 10.
Could you play 2 10s?
Southgate can't play 2 10s.
Declan Rice as the pivot, the holding, with Jude and Foden as the 10s.
The problem, I love it, right? It's Kevin Keegan does that, Terry Venables does that. So what you do is you have Declan Rice, what are you saying? Declan Rice is like a 6, and then you have Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden. You at various points in the game, you have Jude Bellingham as a 10 and Phil Foden as an 8. At another point in the game, you have Phil Foden as a 10 and Jude Bellingham as an 8, and they interchange. I don't think England are fluid like that. No. Because also, think about how attacking that is, and bearing in mind, Declan Rice is naturally quite adventurous. Our Achilles heel, the weak point in this England team, is our defence. You've only got Declan Rice in there if you go for the system that you just suggested we employ.
Yeah.
It kind of goes, 4-1-4-1.
Yeah.
With Declan Rice as the most defensive player. Nah, man, we get battered.
Yeah, let's hear from a few experts, because the first episode of our new Euro 2024 podcast, Euros All Access, is now available on the talkSPORT YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Sam Matterface is alongside Alex Crook, Scott Minto and Spanish football expert Terry Gibson for a detailed look at this year's tournament. Let's just listen in now as the panel discuss the makeup of England's midfield and the role of Jude Bellingham. Let's just look quickly at Jude Bellingham and his role and how you feel he's going to play, Rory. He's obviously played number 10 for Real Madrid and really excelled this season, but he played a deeper role for Dortmund. Do you see him definitely as that number 10 role?
Yes, I do, actually. I do. I think it's Foden or Bellingham, and Bellingham isn't as capable as Foden to go out wide, and therefore, almost because of his brilliance, Phil Foden's going to have to fall on his sword and move out wide. That's what happens when you're almost the better player, or at least more versatile player. You're the one that will have to go out wide. Yeah. The other reason is because Phil Foden played centrally the other night. He turned it on for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If he wanted that position to be his own, he had to have the game of his life that day for England. Ultimately, Phil Foden for England has been fairly underwhelming, and until he turns it on and makes that number 10 his own, it's not his.
I mean, the last few games for Real Madrid, he was getting criticised a little bit, Jude Bellingham, and he didn't feature in any of those games also. Is any cause for concern going to the tournament?
No, I don't. I think that England have many causes for concern. There are a lot of things that I'm troubled by with regard to England, and I'm doing my best to subdue them in my mind. But Jude Bellingham or Phil Foden or Harry, they're not my problem. Like, Harry Kane missed a sitter and he's got back. But no, I have no concerns about Harry Kane. Of course I don't have concerns about Jude Bellingham, and of course I don't have concerns about Harry Kane, because I ain't got room in my life for that, because I've got major concerns about Mark Gahey, or major concerns about Lewis Dunk, or major concerns about John Stones' fitness, or major concerns about Kieran Trippier, or, to be totally frank, major concerns about Gareth Southgate. I ain't got time to worry about the brilliant players in our squad. I
heard a quote earlier, and this is what does concern me, and it was that most of the England players would get into most, if not all, European sides, club level. Most of them, the starting 11.
Yes.
Would any of those big European clubs take Gareth Southgate as a manager?
No.
None of them. So
Darren,
there's your cause for concern.
do you know what? I had an interaction when I was on talkSPORT that I thought really did tell the story about Gareth Southgate. I was fairly harsh on him. I'm trying not to be at the moment, by the way. What I'm doing at the moment is trying to pledge allegiance to Gareth Southgate. There's no point in us slandering Southgate now, right? But I made it known that at various points in Southgate's tenure as England manager, I haven't been impressed. And I felt that at various points he could have gone. And we had a phone call from an irate Burnley fan. I shouldn't have told you he's a Burnley fan just yet, right? But listen to what happened. A caller phones in and he's furious. Yeah. You shouldn't talk about Southgate like that. There's no point in doing it now. It isn't going to help England. The furtherance of England needs you to be more supportive and whatever. And I thought there's some truth in that, and I kind of agreed. I went, just so I can work this out, you are a big fan of Southgate. He went, yeah. I went, okay, how good is he? He's brilliant. He's honestly waxing Liverpool. I went, would you have him at your club? And he went, absolutely not. And I went, who do you support, mate? Burnley.
Wow.
And I thought, oh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all very well going... Honestly, when I suggested for your club, before I knew what club, he scoffed. It's like he spat his drink out. He was like, oh, no, of course not for my club. I thought he was going to tell me he's supporting Real Madrid.
Oh, that's amazing.
He's supporting Burnley, and he said no.
Honestly, I don't think anyone would want him at club level. Let's hope he can do it. We're all going to support. You're listening to the talkSPORT 2 Social with William Hill. Get epic value all season with William Hill. 18+, begambleaware.org.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.